Welcome, good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. This is Contenders South America. Welcome to the Broadcast.gg desk. I'm your host, Lemon Kiwi. To my bottom right is LaFon. To my bottom left is Hurix. We're going to be going over the first match here of Group B of Week 3, Isurus Gaming versus Black Dragons. This is probably the match of the day. Fourth place for Isurus, 1-1 after the forfeit win from Week 1. And Black Dragons look so good this season. They're currently first place in their group. But LaFon, we'll start with you. Isurus have a few changes to their roster as of recently.
Yeah, Valen came, of course, the more apparent one. They came from Black Dragons, so that is a bit of a highlight there. One of the teams going against their former players, and of course vice versa. And then more recently, they added Avenge to the roster, who is going to be replacing Ravage in that main tank role. Avenge came from a Contenders Trials team, so this will be probably one of the more recent opportunities we will have to see him in his gameplay. But that is some of the highlights of that roster changes for Isurus, Lemon. Other than that, moving forward.
Yeah, Avenge coming from Centaurus Gaming and Trials from last season. We gotta get to know this guy. He's replacing such a pivotal role to the team. The main tank. This is where Ravaged, back where he was on the team, was directing a lot of these dives, was directing the pushes for this team. So how will Avenge fill these shoes? Hurix, I'll go to you now. Black Dragons, though, they lost Valen there to Isurus, so it's a bit of a rivalry there.
Absolutely, there's got to be a rivalry there, and this is a very pivotal match for both of these teams as well. I mean, obviously some seeding going on here for playoffs as well. That there's going to be a big battle for that. You want to make sure that you have a good spot, because looking over at Group A, when you're talking about that fourth team that's going into the playoffs, that's going to give them a much better outlook in the playoffs if they have that top spot. And this could very well determine that, especially with Isurus coming off of 4 map wins in a row on their first game, or rather their first played game. And, they only have maps dropped from a forfeit. They haven't actually dropped in play any maps just yet. And going against Black Dragons, that, in my opinion, I mean, I've been catching up on some of the stuff that you guys have been really covering over the last couple of weeks. And what I've seen personally is that this is a team that I kind of expected a little bit more from. It's been a team that's been talked about. It's been touted as one of the top teams. And, even in their last matchup against Pain, another top team, certainly in this group at the very least, they kind of struggled. A lot of their wins weren't by very much. And I think versus a team like Isurus, this could very well be a matchup that is going to be tough for them.
It is going to be tough. LaFon, you got a first place team versus fourth place. This game means so much to Isurus to be safer in their playoff spot, while as Black Dragons will lock in that number 1 seed. I mean, were you expecting Black Dragons to look this good this season?
I mean, this is one of the things about South America, right? We kind of expect the top end to be at the top end. So Black Dragons being up there is not exactly surprising. I think what is surprising is how they've gotten here. They are extremely, in terms of map percentage, in terms of their the way they've played the games, I think they're doing a lot better than perhaps we would have expected them to. Winning is not necessarily the surprise. It's how they've won, how they've got to this point, especially after shakeup. Again, losing their DPS last year.
Well, I think we've seen Black Dragons. I mean, they really surprised me, and I think a lot of people in this community when they got to the quarterfinals of last season, so they were a pretty decent, they're a playoff team. But then they came into this season and beat Pain Gaming, a huge name in the SA community, in a game 5. And now they're going against fourth place Isurus, who another juggernaut team. Both these teams made playoff last season, and Isurus in a less comfortable position than Black Dragons, surprisingly. But Hurix, who will be your player to watch between these two teams?
I'm actually going to be looking at Valen here. I mean, he was integral in their ability, in Black Dragon's ability to actually sweep Isurus last season. I think he's going to be integral in Isurus Gaming's ability to come back and actually take it to Black Dragons. I think that Isurus might be able to sweep one out here, but I do think that this is going to be a tough matchup. And I think, again, it's gonna rest on Valen to be able to be that key player.
How about you, LaFon? Who's your player to watch?
I think we're gonna have to get an idea and see just how the tank lineup for Isurus plays out. So it's gonna be for me Avenge coming into the forefront. What's gonna happen here? Like, I mean, again, that's such a pivotal role. We've talked about how supports and tanks are the most important part of the gameplay in terms of how you generate offense, in terms of how you actually zone out the enemy team. So a brand new player in a brand new team, it's tough to see how he's gonna do. So I'm gonna keep an eye out on that tank role mostly and how he synergizes with the front line for Isurus specifically.
Exactly. How is Avenged and Beast going to work together? Avenged coming new to this roster. Who knows how much scrim time they've had together? And now that you're getting into the later weeks of Contenders, sort of midway through, these matches are so important to Isurus, especially correct myself that they lost to a forfeit into week 1. So in 4-4, they're not in the best spot. And actually, if they keep this 4th place spot, they will be facing Brazil Gaming House in the playoffs, and I would believe in their first match. And that was the grand final matchup last season. So excited to see Isurus, if they can climb back to that, I guess, first place or that top spot that they were last season. As you can see, Isurus and Black Dragons will be our first match. Predators Esports versus Pain Gaming second, and 2Kill versus Hephaestus will be our final match of the day. But now that we are going to be wrapping things up here on the desk for Broadcast.gg, I'm going to send it over to our casters, Boopenham Tornado, to cover our first match of Isurus versus Black Dragons. Take it away.
We are so excited to be here to get these behemoths of South American Overwatch and watch them play together. Isurus, you are 4-4 due to forfeit, and this is the first time we're really going to see a test for them.
Yeah, that's the thing. A really unlucky start to this season that maybe has kind of cursed them as they try and solidify themselves as one of the top 2 teams in this region. This is definitely going to be a proving ground, especially against Black Dragons, who have risen up to the top as a really strong contender.
Well, they arose last season, so actually the last time they played in a very surprising form, Isurus got swept.
Yep.
So Black Dragons 4-0'd Isurus the last time they played, and it was a while ago though. These are pretty much different teams at this point.
Still, that 0-4 match loss is really going to be stinging a little bit. This is the second time. This is going to be a redemption story for Isurus. I mean, they have really been put through the ringer, first with the forfeiture and then losing their main tank, and then having to bring in Avenge, who I believe comes from Centaurus Gaming.
Yeah. And the only person that he's played with before is Kaisa, who is a can play support here as well, but he has not played. Avenged has not played since Trials Season 1. So it has been a little bit. Let's see if he's up in practice. But Isurus picked him up. I'm sure he is good to go. And our first map is going to be Lijiang Tower. So we've seen Black Dragons on this map before.
Oh yeah, for sure, and they are strong. I mean, the desk brought up a really good point. It's going to be so much pressure on Avenge, but Control is kind of a good place to, get warmed up, start flexing with your team. For one thing, you have 3 chances, right, in order to take the round. And also, it's a very brawl-heavy style map. There's a lot of chances for individual carry style. It's not as objective-focused as you would see on, say, Hybrid or Assault in particular. So as long as you're able to cap that first point, if you're trading evenly, you're still doing pretty well. And hopefully that will be where Isurus can kind of find the room and leeway to really gel together, because that's going to be crucial coming up against Black Dragons.
And one thing that is crucial is Valen is going to have to play amazing during this series. So he used to be on Black Dragons. Lemon brought it up during the desk, and
Fisher, London, Spitfire type deal.
Right? He could be like bringing in team secrets, or maybe that forces Black Dragons to play a completely different game. And so this happens in other sports too, where players go to a different team and all of a sudden that team is now beatable because you have a little bit of that inside information. The other thing to note is Black Dragons is coming in on a top, I believe, for the first time in this series history. So, while Black Dragons has always been top 4, they've always been behind Isurus and BGH, and now is the time to prove that they don't belong behind them. They are going to stay on top, as we are going to be on Control Center here firsthand, and we're going to see tanks upon tanks here.
Some of that classic heavy beefy comp coming our way. Isurus Gaming versus Black Dragons. This is a match with heavy stakes right here, folks. As we see, there will be a GOATS composition, the 3-3, with the Brigida coming out from Black Dragons, whereas Isurus will be putting Valen on that Hanzo. So this will be a true test of this DPS, especially coming up against that Brigitte. This is oftentimes where we do see teams fall. You cannot allow the Ghost composition to get first cap. If you do, and they're cycling their ults well, it's going to be almost impossible to burst through that choke. You're going to have just a couple more chances to break through all of those tank ultimates. So this first fight going to be crucial for Isurus. They actually have Klaus on the McCree as well, a very rare hero that we almost never see here in South America. Perhaps he can use this surprise to Isurus's advantage.
Ooh, and Black Dragons is going to take the distance first thanks to that Lucio. And with their positioning, they're going to have the advantage in this fight. As shown by the first two kills here, this is Ghost working to perfection. You get the jump on the fight, and then you take it. And if you take the point, that's where you're going to be the strongest, hand.
Absolutely. The longer you sustain in this fight, the better you are. And already Black Dragons getting that first cap. Klaus is down. A great stagger. That McCree definitely not joining the fight anytime soon here. And now how are Isurus going to break out of this choke? They need burst, and Klaus on this Junkrat is going to do exactly that. It's going to need time, though, to get up to that tire, and look at all of the charge coming in from Wetter, just slaking down Isurus Gaming with all of that laser. However, we do see Delading getting a little bit low here.
And Beast actually has a higher ult charge than Valen right now, which you don't ever see on a Zarya. So the Graviton Surge is actually going to be available for this next fight, especially since it's a 6v5 on the point. The Graviton Surge is out, and the kills are going to come down to you, but Frolik and Olay are going to even this up, because Olay gets a great coalescence to counter that grab. And with the energy on Wetter, what looked like a record grab winning fight for Isurus Gaming, Black Dragons is actually going to push them off the point.
That's the thing with CC Ultimates, Boop. You can get that Graviton Surge, a beautiful shatter, but if the follow-up isn't there, you're not going to be winning that fight. However, there is the numbers advantage now for Isurus Gaming. Klaus just about 10-15% away from that tire. Going to be a big one. Graviton Surge out first, though.
Ooh, and the self-destruct to try to counter that. Ooh, is he going to be able to? Yes, he does get away from it. The corner just big enough, disrupts the big explosion. The Sleepers is actually going to get the first pick and cause Isurus to reset. Once again, Isurus will be coming in with 5 ultimates on it the next round. But the thing is they would really like Beast to have that Graviton Surge. That Earth Shatter is going to knock a bunch of people down, and those dragons are going to be sated. Well, maybe not as much as expected, as Black Dragons is still losing this fight. Isurus coming out on a top in the end, but they still have to make it to the point.
Very scrappy battle right there. Black Dragons investing almost everything to try and maintain hold here, but why not? You're almost at 99%. It's going to be a one and done fight territory for Black Dragons. Isurus Gaming, though, they have a very tall uphill battle here in order to try and maintain control of this point, but they have ultimates in plenty. Ravage, actually, who is going to be in for this Isurus roster, at least in this first map, will soon have yet another Earth Shatter. Sleepers got the drop on him with that flanking shatter early on, and he's not going to be allowing that to happen once again.
Isurus is well equipped for the next couple rounds, though, so they're going to look for these first picks. Ooh, no sound barrier for you, as Klaus is going to get taken down by the tower, but this is evened up now with Frolik's kill on Junkrat. Good charge going right through the Graviton, and you're going to get Shatter as well, and he's not going to even have to use it for this because his body was good enough.
My body, that's
is
right.
a wonderland.
Exactly. That's absolutely on Reinhardt's shower playlist. Prove me wrong. You can't. That's right. And Ravage, he's burning with all the fire of the blue glory. Gonna have that Earth Shatter, like you said, Boop, and that's going to be crucial because looking at Black Dragons, all they'll have is that sound barrier coming in. Wetter very close to that Graviton Surge as well, but as we know from the past, Graviton Surge without follow-up damage is just going to be an unwilling hug. Ooh, Wetter goes down early as well. That's even more free point percentage for Isurus. If they can continue to rotate these ultimates, they have both the Valkyrie and the Transcendence up online, and Valen's Dragon Strike. All of these are going to be tempoing the fight in Isurus's favor. Black Dragons have to overcome multiple obstacles in order to even set a toe on this point, and if they wait much longer, they're going to find themselves in a 99-99 overtime deal.
They need to wait just the right amount of time, though, because they need to get their ultimates online as well, as Graviton Surge is 2%. Ooh, Earth Shatter goes down and knocks 2. Delavine barely surviving, but the Dragons are going to cut that short, as it's going to get 2 kills and 4 total for Isurus Game. This self-destruct needs to be massive, and it won't be, as Isurus is going to pull this out 93% from 0% all the way to 99.
That's going to be a clean take for Isurus right there. An intelligent swap from Klaus as well, recognizing that he had use that tire, gonna swap off onto the Pharah as Black Dragons weren't running any kind of dedicated hit scan, no kind of air control at all. So in the end, it didn't even make that much of a difference as the tanks were able to kind of hold that line. Ravaged and Beast really showing up to play.
Beast getting grabs so fast.
Exactly.
Right?
What an animal.
Good one.
You're welcome.
That was a very smart joke.
Yeah.
Anyway, going back to this game, something that is so cool to see is both of these teams really going at it and going after each other. I love that aggression. And Goats, we saw the weakness and the advantage of it at the beginning here, and we're not going to see Goats again. I'm expecting Kaiza and Pizza Lover to switch, but yes. And then so they're going to get the speed out of the spawn, and then they're going to come right here on it to the point. They're going to meet each other right away, but one team is running a Pharah and one is not, and that usually bodes well for the Pharah player here, as they're going to be able to rain down from above. The Valen's going to go ahead and dome them in instead. So Perlick is going down, and what I felt like was a strong team composition, they're all dead.
Surprise! Suddenly Widowmaker's salad. That is kind of the question that these teams need to answer when you do see those dueling Widowmakers. Where are you focused on? Oftentimes in the past we would see, where are the dueling pharmacies focusing? The 1v1 or the ground battle. But for Widowmakers, it's going to be either that 1v1 or the air battle, and Valen winning out both. I mean, honestly, in that fight to earn Isurus a very easy point A take. And now Pearly K going to have to try and push into this point as far as much more difficult to find those angles, but without Valen, it's going to be a lot easier. And the cancel
the res is canceled. Olay is going to confirm that kill. That's going to be a 6v5 here on the point, giving Black Dragons an opportunity to take it. Oh, and another really great diva play there, almost getting the boot kill off, and Olay is going to continue his frag list right now and get Black Dragons point.
Frag list indeed. Delavine showing up here in the kill feed. It's not just Widowmaker this guy's good on, and now Isurus, they're going to have to find some way to burst onto the point. But you know what really helps? A giant nade to the face with Cloud's pulse bomb. Oh, finds out Delading. Manages to escape.
They just said hello, gave each other,
some eye
Valentine's
contact,
card.
yeah.
Aggressive eye contact. Let's see if Valen's going to be able to continue his dominance right here on this Widowmaker. He has actually been the hotter Widowmaker so far. Actually, no Widowmaker on the other team. And as I say that, Peace Lover is down. That's the best kill you want from your Widowmaker. Look at this pocketing. Saw the engage onto the Widowmaker. The Valkyrie is popped. This is still a 65 on the point. Can't confirm on Olay. Get that revenge kill, but Perlick is evening this out. So what looked like a really great fight for Isurus is now a really great fight for Black Dragons, and this is South American Overwatch at its finest. When you think it's over, it is not. As Black Dragons going to come back, they're going to come back with a 5 ultimates, and they maintain control of the point as this fight is still going on.
Yeah, that was a fight that Isurus had to lose there, but it took so many resources, both of the tanks trying to dive Olay there just to get rid of the Zenyatta, and that allowed Black Dragons to get the drop onto the rest of the members of the team. Now, however, Klaus putting on his carry pants here, pressuring out the Mercy. Pizza Lover forced the Guardian Angel away, but he can't make it onto the point itself.
Ooh, almost, tried to do his best Neptuno impression, got that pistol out, but died instead as Black Dragons loses the point. Isurus back on the point, 40%. This has been an even battle so far.
So back and forth between both of these teams. The Black Dragons definitely looking better on paper. They're going to have a bevy of ultimates here. Pearly K's barrage going to be a huge one, even against a Widowmaker. If you can get a good concussive blast and drop those rockets right on top of her head, the strongest umbrella in the universe is not going to save you here. Not to mention the fact that Olay is still at 60% to that Transcendence. So Black Dragon is going to have to use this opening opportunity with the bomb.
Ooh, and no opening created. Gonna have to just re-imagine. Oh, and the rocket barrage goes down, and it doesn't get anything, but the rest of the team is gonna back him up anyway and get the kills. And at 72%, they're probably gonna lose this point right now, and they're still gonna have both support ultimates for the next one.
Excellent ultimate discipline there from Black Dragons. Olay really fragging out, getting those finishing blows, and that's kind of been one of the big difference makers here. Isurus Gaming, their own supports are requiring so many resources from the tanks and DPS just to keep them safe. Black Dragons have been really putting them under pressure. Valen as well, who hasn't been finding those early sight lines, and already the DPS have with Klaus out, Ravage down for the count as well.
That is bad news. Valkyrie was popped by Pizza Lover. Valen trying to bring his team back, but to no avail as he is going down, and they don't don't have enough bodies on this point to contest. This is going to have to be a miracle stall, but Ravage does have Primal Rage, and if we see miracle stalls, that's why. Self-destruct on the point, not going to be able to get anyone. Beast's going to have to re-mech. Olay getting that kill on Klaus. This is still a disadvantage for Isurus Gaming. They can't even get themselves on the point, and the Primal Rage Winston dead because of that Discord orb. Olay, man, you're a support. You're showing up too many times. Wetter, good stuff there on that self-destruct. And in the end, we have a third round here on Lijiang Tower.
Already, I know that we have a series ahead of us, Hoop. So back and forth. Olay, man, you saw that last second fight. 7 HP and a dream.
Ugh.
But hey, man.
And he's been dreaming of frags. That's what
Dreaming
he's
of
been
frags,
doing.
or just embracing tranquility. You know,
Yeah.
honestly, it'll sustain you through more than you really expect.
Well, his character's all about balance, right? You gotta do the damage, you're doing the healing as well. He's doing a little bit of both. What does Isurus need to do to kind of come back from this?
We need to see a lot more focus fire from this team. When Klaus and Valen are popping up, we know they're 100% capable of getting those frags. But in the meantime, Kaiza and DDX continue to fall to Black Dragons, and it's kind of this case of who's going to be counter diving harder, who's having the more successful initiations. And the story of that last Gardens round was Black Dragons notching those wins, those fight wins over and over.
Oh, and that's how you open up a point, getting that first kill. Didn't get the headshot, but the rest of his team weakened him up, and now they have 4 people, Black Dragons does, and they still have 7 seconds until the point's open, so they're actually going to get an opportunity to get some people back before the point opens up, but Isurus is going to have the positioning advantage.
Positioning advantage is going to be key as well, since Black Dragons is going to be run Perlick on that Pharah, and you really need the room to be able to shell in those rockets. Many Pharahs like to hang out in that back mini room, but we already see Klaus on the prowl here looking for those entry frags to keep the Pharah uncomfortable. Once she does get set up though and gets that barrage, oh, he's already there. This is a terrible place for Isurus to find themselves re-engaging back on the point against this Pharah.
Yeah, they just let them flip
Oh,
the
boy.
point at this, which is a mental lapse for sure, but they're going to have to bring it back because the rest of Black Dragons has not reached the point yet, and because of the discombobulation that caused Isurus is looking like they're coming in here with no game plan, but the game plan Beast is going to put it on his shoulders, be the Beast, and get those first 2.5 kills there, and the D-Mech. The D-Mech is very, very important because then they're coming in with 1 less tank. Olay doing another frag, but in the end, Isurus is going to take the point back. The Black Dragons was able to get 22 free percentage points.
And that's the optimal word here, Boop. Free points. They really took their eyes off of the objective, allowed Perlick not only to flip the point for Black Dragons, but build up to this barrage as well. That's going to be a huge fight winner in and of itself, potentially, for Black Dragons. However, Valen going to know exactly where all of Black Dragons will be trying to engage, and that's more free time as Black Dragons should hopefully be waiting this out. No, Klaus goes down.
And this is the opening that Black Dragons need. I do not believe that is resable. Self-destruct could be big here. Might clip Mercy, and it doesn't. So it's still a 65 onto the point. Great headshot from Valen. That Discord orb definitely helped out as well. And this is evened up on the point. Isurus actually has the number advantage, and Kaiser gonna stop the rocket barrage with the Mercy pistol. Man, you don't see that every day, but Delavine come in with a double, pulls a bomb and kill. So once again, we've got a back and forth fight, a skirmish on the point, but in at the end, Post Bomb not going to be enough for Primal Rage to get taken down. Transcendent's going to keep his team alive, and Isurus Gaming coming out on top here.
Yeah, Isurus, they had to win that fight as they invested both support ultimates here, but Black Dragons themselves as well. They will have that Transcendence and Valkyrie for the next fight, but interesting Primal Rage from Sleepers, just trying to see if he can buy enough time for Black Dragons to kind of combo back onto the point. Klaus, though, really pulling in the kills. The Resurrection is down now for at least 30 more seconds from Black Dragons, so Isurus know that any picks are going to be permanent here, and they're going to need them.
And they're permanent at 99%. Ooh, that is a huge pick from Olay once again. This happened the last round, and Wetter's going to get the self-destruct kill as well. So Black Dragons giving themselves a shot. God is listening to them right now as Black Dragons getting the kills, and in overtime, they will flip this point, Han.
Overwatch God, Papa Jeff.
Papa
is
Jeff, Papa Jeff.
smiling on Black Dragon, smiling on Olay.
Listening.
Honestly, this Zenyatta has been able to pick out Klaus. This is, I believe, the third time now, and it's certainly going to be tilting for your Tracer. But Santa Claus, will you be bringing us a Pulse Bomb kill present? That's going to be the big ultimate online for Isurus. Despite all of the disadvantages for them pushing back into this barrage, that could be a fight winner in and of itself.
Oh, I love this positioning from Sleepers, knowing exactly where the team was. Perlick didn't get the kill on Ravage, but the D-Mech is going to cause Black Dragon to have one less tank, and they're going to convert on that kill as well. But Perlick is zoning these players off of the point right now, and at 57%, it is getting worse and worse for Isurus. But to no avail, it's getting better and better for Isurus, as Valen is going to get the headshot that counts with Pizza Lover going down. They're going to flip this point and take Lijiang Tower 2-1, Ham.
Oh man, Kaiser popping that Valk just because sometimes you just want to fly, man. You just want to float. Because Isurus Gaming bringing things back in style. You saw kind of the difference in team strategy between these two teams. Black Dragons was all about maintaining control of that objective. You saw Perlick going onto the point and flipping it even without the rest of his team really prioritizing getting early point percentage, whereas Isurus were completely behind Valen, pocketing him, giving him all of the resources that he needed in order to get those kills. You get the kills, you win the fight, and then you get onto the point. And fortunately for Isurus, Valen had his carry pants on today.
Well, that's something that you like to talk about all the time, and a point that I love hearing from you is sometimes it's okay to get off the point. Sometimes it's okay to give those 5 to 10 percentage points, because in the end, it's going to pay off with 30 or 40.
Exactly. You get a more solid grasp of the point. You win more decisively, whereas the enemy team are maybe scrambling, potentially panic ulting, throwing in a barrage that gets rezzed. Yeah. So Isurus able to kind of execute that plan.
Man, but I just want to say this: Olay,
Olay,
man. Yeah, but opening the point up 3 times, getting the first pick on important DPS characters, I believe all 3 times. And that's exactly what you want out of a playmaking Zen. That is something that not every team has, is a playmaking Zen.
That's certainly something where we already see the divergence. DDX and Kaiser honestly have been a lot more quiet. Granted, the play style, between the two teams, it's all about giving the support to Valen's Widowmaker in order to enable him. You're not going to be going out Neptuno battle mercying or anything if you're Kaiser, so that has been working out quite well for Isurus. However, when we do see the fights devolve into that kind of bare knuckle brawl, Zens are punching, people kicking, and so on and so forth, that's when, that extra little bit of aggression and fragging potential has started to pay off for Black Dragons.
And someone who was pretty cold that round were actually the DPS players from the Black Dragons. They popped off on the second round, which they won. But in the end, I didn't really feel like Delavine stood up to his potential there.
It was a very rough game for him, both on, the Tracer and on the Brigida on City Center, I believe. It's when we talk about the DPS performance, on one hand, it's absolutely, what kind of mechanical skill, what kind of carry clutch potential do you have? But a lot of it is also on the tanks in order to make space for you, to afford you those sightlines. We saw how well Isurus kind of circled the wagons around Valen. All the Diva was doing was eating up those far rockets so Valen could have sightlines when they were trapped in that tiny little the kind of flea market stall on Night Market. And that's the kind of play that hopefully we'll be seeing coming through from the Black Dragons tanks, both Sleepers and Wetter, a little bit quiet. We didn't really see them coming up in the kill feed at all, unless we were seeing those big graviton surges.
So we do have our next map, which is going to be the classic Kings Row. And at this point in time, I remember when Kings Row first came out, all the payload/hybrid maps were hard to finish. But you've had so much practice on Kings Row since the beginning of the game. It is the expectation that the teams will finish at this point in time. And so it's more of a time bank situation here. If you're going to stop on 3 or any point on Kings Row, that is a huge advantage for your team.
100% Boop. And going off of that point, it's not just how well you finish the map, but how much time you have. And, we could say the same about those ultimates coming, because, Reinhardt's and Zarya's coming back into vogue means that you will get grabbed. You will get grabbed and most likely wiped. And it's not just, what tools you have yourself, but how you react to being ulted upon. For example, we often see that Reinhardt-Zarya combination Shatter first, Grav after, because the Reinhardt can often build up a Shatter in the course of getting in damage during the Graviton Surge. You see those little kind of niche things. Some of the teams really have that polish, and other teams, maybe we see a panic Grav come out first, not really get anything, and then the Shatter in desperation try and pick up some kills afterwards. So those are kind of the small little gilding bits on top of the team fight where you may see a mirror composition, but those are the things that will bring your team forward ahead of them just by that little bit.
And something that will bring Black Dragons forward is this is where Delavine got his nickname Delading, I believe. So
I think I accidentally said Delading at least twice instead of his real name. So
yes.
that's how strong he is on the snipers, folks.
And so he was playing a monster Hanzo, which we haven't seen a ton of already, but Delavine showing that Genji. They do love Genji in South America. I love it as well. I just love, again, that assertive aggression towards the teams, but I really want to see Delavine rocking that Hanzo at some point. And looking at Isurus's team, they're going to be doing the Klaus Junkrat and Valen Hanzo defense.
Interesting choice, the Junkrat, knowing that Perlick runs a very competent Pharah, but you still have Valen on that Hanzo to kind of dissuade Black Dragons from going that team composition route. As we open up here on King's Row, there will be 2 healers for Isurus. Oftentimes we see the solo Mercy, but DDX going to be bringing in that damage orb, going to be deadly against any of the squishies from Black Dragon. So when you're running this dive defense, it's all about careful positioning here. Delavine already flanking in the back line, looking to see if he can put some pressure on the high ground.
Ooh, Sleeper's taking it low, and all they need to do is bring Orisa off of the high ground. You don't want her to be the sentinel on the high ground there and stay there. The longer they stay there, the less time you're going to have on the clock. So once you get on the point and bring them down, that's when you're going to have the advantage in that fight. So we're definitely going to see a tank or a pick go up there. And as of right now, Sleeper's going to continue staying on the low ground, and with the high ground advantage, Isurus is going to take advantage.
Yeah, there's only one body on the point right now, but Isurus are happy to potentially let that tick go, and they will, as they're focused once again on winning that team fight. DDX staying on this high ground now, getting aggressed upon.
Ooh. But we're seeing it there, they stayed on the high ground for a very, very long time, and we see the advantage of that. They got the tick, which is a little bit of a mental lapse, but in the end, just like you said, sometimes it's okay to cede the space so you can get more time later.
Exactly. You might lose the battle, but you're going to win the war here. Resurrection even comes through for DDX, so Sleeper's not going to be happy with that, unfortunately. Isurus back at that full 6-man, and the most important bit is they now have ultimates as well. Perlick is going to be the closest one on the attacking side, and that's just going to be the wall hacks to enable his team, not necessarily a fight winner in and of itself.
And Hanzo's always been good on King's Row on both sides. And we're going to see why here in a second as Dragon Strike is on the line for Valen. And Klaus is very close to that Riptire as well. They're trying for these flanks, but as of right now, they're just giving them the space. They can't seem to put it all together to bring them off of this high ground. And they're all in different positions right now. Valen does to get taken low.
Yeah, giving them the space and the ult charge as well. Valkyrie pop now, Kai'Sa under pressure.
And Klaus is going to get the first kill here. Dragon Strike out, going to get Pizza Lover. This is going to spell doom for Black Dragon's offense, especially when you see the Mercy on the left side of that screen getting that frag kill. Isurus Gaben looking like a stalwart defense so far.
Oh yeah, we were just saying Kai'Sa not really seeing a whole lot of Pulse Pistol coming out, but he has proved us wrong. Gets a kill onto Sleeper's Winston. And Isurus, they still have plenty of ultimates in the bank. Transcendence for sustain and this Tire for the offensive push. Black Dragons, they are running that Mercy, so Klaus's Tire, if he does want to put a stop to this, will be hoping for that multi-kill. Otherwise, it may easily be rezzed here. DDX going to be holding his hand for Delavine's Blade coming in, but with just 1 minute and 20 left, Black Dragons have maybe 2 more good pushes here.
And if they want 2 good pushes, they have to do it now, and they have to get Riptire out right now, because Riptire can stop them at A right here and right now. With 1 minute and 10 seconds, they need this a pick, and they're going to go ahead and engage, and you're going to see that with the Valkyrie. Sleeper's going to get a huge first pick against Valen. Black Dragons, this is your King's Row life on the line. Perla does get the Tire. Supercharger going to go down as well. Black Dragons going to continue using their advantage on this fight. Transcendence going to keep all of Black Dragons alive here. And right now, Black Dragons looking the best they have all of King's Row, but it's not over yet. It never is here in South America, even though the kills are coming down. Beast is back, and the D-Mech is going to make his life a lot harder here. But as of right now, the point is still not taken. Black Dragons going to get that second pick. Are they going to come back? It doesn't look like they will, as Isurus is going to be pulled off of the point, and they're going to lose it. Black Dragons will take the first point.
I saw Ravage there coming back on the Reinhardt, thinking about it for just a second, but definitely doesn't want to feed any more ultimate charge. And the best news for Black Dragons is that Delavian didn't actually even need his blade that entire time. It was just some good old-fashioned dive sleepers with that Primal Rage. As you said, Boop, fulfilling that win condition, knocking the Orisa off of the high ground, getting everybody to drop onto the objective where Black Dragons, with their better mobility, could just swarm them. However, now Street Space is an entirely different map, practically, as we see the tier composition swapping now. Pearly K going on the Pharah instead to get a little bit of that high ground. Definitely going to be good against Klaus's Junkrat. Whoa!
I think he knew the self-destruct was coming and just served himself up. Wanted to see if he was going to be able to take someone down with him, as Klaus is already at a second rip tire. Pearl, on a huge play, was able to get rid of the last one, and this one's going to need to be big.
Yeah, this is going to need to be big for both teams. This is where you either take the point or hold. Isurus, they have plenty of ultimates to come through, but the tire has been sniped once before. It may happen again. Pearly K still has that ability to splash damage the tire into oblivion here, but we do also have that Dragon Strike online.
Ooh, a Fire Strike getting taken down by that Defense Matrix. The tire is out. This needs to be a big, and with 1 minute and 39 seconds left, if it's not, then that's going to give Black Dragons an opportunity to come here. Once again, Olay coming in at clutch, buttered up by the Pharah Rockets, but he was focusing the tire, which gave him a good sightline Valen to get the kill, and Valen's going to get another kill on a Pharah, and no res available. Kaiser's going to get the res on a Klaus. Dragon Strike is going to try to push them off of the payload. Dragon Blade coming out. Let's see if that's going to convert on any kills. The Transcendence is going to make it a lot harder for him. Is nothing to it on the Dragon Blade. Graviton Surge on the payload. You have to convert because Olay's doing all of the damage for Black Dragons thus far. Olay, you are a madman!
Yay! Oh my goodness. Between Olay and Delavian, Isurus caught between a sword and an Omnic place right there. Pearly K, he wasn't even in the fight that entire time, practically. He is going to swap off now onto the Widowmaker to face Klaus. Wow, Black Dragons investing heavily, but still pulling out the win, and that is excellent because Isurus, they need time to build up to these supportive ultimates, and they don't have it. They have no time, no space here, as Black Dragon's going to be looking to push their positional advantage, already grabbing that high ground away from Isurus, who have no kind of verticality to speak of.
And they used the support ultimates in the last fight. They should have won. So this is just bread and butter Overwatch right now. No ultimates online for anybody other than the Earth Shatter, which is going to knock Wetter to the ground. Klaus is going to convert on that kill as well. And in the end, especially where the payload is right now, Isurus has a huge advantage, and they're going to force Black Dragons to reset.
Talking about positional advantage, but Isurus has the Klaus and Valen advantage. Just some good old finding those headshots, and Valen will have that Dragon Strike in the next fight once again. His ultimate generation has been incredible so far, and it's Isurus really need to be able to bank on that ultimate in order to continue to hold here. Kaiser will be close to that Valkyrie as well, but Pizza Lover going to be able to meet him in the air with that chain healing and chain damage boost. The biggest threat is definitely going to be Delavian's blade here. DDX himself going to be quite far away from that trance.
Ooh, but the blade won't matter if Klaus is able to get the headshot on before he's able to unleash. And Valen's going to try to get the D-Mech, but no, the Discord Orb was helping, but he couldn't convert on it. And Black Dragons, just like we saw on A, is going to decide to put all their eggs in one basket and one last push. They're going to have to win 2 fights in a row to make King's Row happen for themselves. And with the Valkyrie, Pizza Lover says, hey, it's going to be right now. As Delavian is not at Blade yet, and that's going to be brutal for him as Valen is going to die. Pizza Lover does get the res, but all the focus towards the res means all of Isurus Gaming can take advantage of the discombobulation that Black Dragons had in their team and kill them all.
Oh, discombobulation across the sky. Double discombobulation. In fact, you saw that Black Dragons, perhaps they're getting a little bit too hasty now. Perlick hasn't been finding the heads that he has in the past, and Delavian having a little bit of a Shadowburn Blade performance at this point. Pizza Lover on the Lucio now just to try and get Black Dragons into touch, but they're going to have to face these Graviton Surge.
The Graviton Surge has been taken, and the Dragons are eating, and that is going to spell the end for Isurus here on the end for Black Dragons on their offensive pushes. All of them are dead. Overtime Wick is over, and Isurus holds before they get the last point.
That is crucial right there. As Isurus now, they have the win condition for this map. There are no extra innings here. If they can bring the payload to that golden box of victory, they will come up 2-0 in what is a very competitive match before the halftime.
that advantage cannot be understated.
Mhm.
Being 2-0 up against Black Dragons. Last time you faced, you got swept.
Exactly. And we know that these South American teams, very emotional, passionate teams, being able to come into the third match knowing that you're only needing to take one more is going to do wonders for this Isurus team, who we had questions about whether or not, their name is really deserved. Do they have the play to back up that fame? And they're really showing up right now. Black Dragons, we need to see a little bit more bursty power from both of their DPS, who have had solid performances so far. But when you do need your Zenyatta to be picking up those last finishing frags, that's going to, put a lot more pressure on the rest of your team as well. Whereas Isurus, Valen, and Klaus, we see them showing that double sniper in the spawn right now. If they come out on this team composition, I wouldn't be surprised at all. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Both of them have absolutely been feeling it.
Well, and I also want to use that saying for Delaney right now, as he showed some amazing promise on Hanzo. We have yet to see Hanzo on Black Dragons on King's Row so far, which is one of Hanzo's strongest maps, always has been.
Indeed, and it is pretty interesting to see a defensive Pharah here, especially knowing that Isurus may be running that double sniper. Black Dragons, their route to victory in their last matchup against Pain Gaming was that Dragaton Surge combo. No Zarya on hand this time around, but Wetter on this Diva going to be much better able to both peel and put pressure on the Isurus backline. Klaus actually going to swap onto his own Pharah after having scoped out Black Dragons.
Ooh, good conk mine, bringing Sleepers down to the low ground, and this is going to give his backline an opportunity to get eaten by Isurus, but that's not what we're going to see. Discord Orb is on a Diva. Ooh, almost gets the frag kill. People on Black Dragons are getting taken low, and finally, after all that time, Sleepers gets taken down, but with Kai'Sa down, there's one support remaining for Isurus. The way that these kills are going, Isurus has an amazing advantage here on at the point, and we'll take this in record time.
Incredible over here. Multi-threats, multi-long distance threats from Isurus, Valen, Klaus, DDX setting up the crossfires over there. There's literally nothing that Black Dragons can do when you are getting taken down across the map by a beautiful volley as Orisa. And so that's going to be a record-breaking point, a take for Isurus. And now as they move on into Streets phase, we already see the tanks pushing up, trying to make a little bit of extra space. This will give their own snipers all the room in the world to set up in the most optimal sight lines. Klaus actually going to swap off onto the McCree. This is really interesting. High Noon is still one of the best ultimates to combat the pharmacy in the air. It'll force them to either duck behind those buildings or just play cautiously to the point that they can't really contribute to the fight.
A lot of them will just take it, right? They'll just take it to get rid of the Deadeye. And Pearl Lake is going to go down. Good switch from Klaus. That's exactly why he did it. DDX finally showing up on his side of the frag list, doing his best OLA impression. And with Winston, X-Ravage going back into the backline, he's actually going to be taken down. And that is not restable. And that is going to be huge for Isurus Gaming here. They have to combat this. Self-destruct is out and going to take down Wetter. No personal barrier for you. Lever is going to switch to bread and butter, which is Lucio.
That is an incredible push there from Isurus, despite losing their DPS. Beast and X-Ravage pulling all of Black Dragon's attention to their backline. Ravage, feeding a little bit. He jumped in deep, wasn't able to get out before his cooldown came back, but Beast was still able to finish off with a well-placed Diva self-destruct. And check that out, Boop. We were talking about the time to finish here, and Isurus may be well taking a free point B.
Ooh, and that pick on the Sleepers is doom for them here on the second point. Gonna go ahead and invest Transcendence into the Sleepers is back and in spawn. Bailey gonna get another kill, and we're looking at some more fragging Zenyatta's. It's helping out, not getting the kills, but definitely helping with the DPS, especially with that Discord Orb placement.
Oh man, Klaus and Valen really showing up here. Just the fact that you see a really unusual hero like McCree here is forcing Black Dragon to play a lot more cautiously than they would like. Pearly K on this Brigitte now actually, kind of getting the drop on Klaus's Genji change right here, but Valen is going to have this Dragon Strike, and once again, Black Dragons, they have no Diva to try and push him off his high ground. He is just free firing right now.
And Sleepers is already at half half health, investing a lot of support into them, and they're 4 minutes 56 seconds, and finally Black Dragons gets a good defense thanks to some really great tank play. Delavine finally popping off on that Hanzo.
What did we say, Boop? Put this guy on the older Shimada. It's a Hanzo, and he's gonna have those dragons as well. We see Wetter trying to get up onto that high ground. The bump jump not going to be quite there. Black Dragon's so close. They have to hold this. This Graviton Surge has to be huge.
And remember, this is going to be potentially for the #1 seed. Dragon Strike going to go through the Graviton, and we're going to see those kills fall. This is now a 6v3. This is a losing fight for us.
Yeah, classic ultimate combo right there, and Black Dragons needed to win that fight. Need to continue to rotate those ultimates, but Isurus themselves will be banking things up. Klaus wisely, I would say, chooses to go onto the Pharah instead, not going to be risking his life against Pearly K's Brigida here. DDX has that Transcendence online. Isurus, they've been able to find wins with just that regular mouse 1 and W. That Transcendence may give them just enough sustain to win without using ultimates, of which they don't have many.
Ooh, but this Earth Shatter needs to be huge, as Delavine does get the first pick on to Farah. Transcendence has been invested in this fight for Isurus. Earth Shatter not going to get any, but actually, yes, one person going to be going down, but that's not going to matter as no kills will be converted. They're depending on Olay to be this offensive Zenyatta, as the rest of Isurus Gaming are going to take advantage of the weak ultimates that Black Dragons invested into this fight. But with all of that HP, thanks to that rally, they are staying in here longer than one might expect. Klaus finally taking down a Pizza Lover. Sound Barrier had been used, and finally Isurus is going to move to this yellow box of victory and take a pretty thrilling last fight there, but dominant performance overall.
2-0 now for Isurus, moving into the half off of some incredible tank play. We can talk about this DPS all day long, but that was going to be the difference maker for both of these teams. Anytime you saw either side winning things out, it was off the backs of plays like this. Wetter picking up that 2K with that Diva Bomb. Unfortunately, though, Black Dragon's not quite able to bring things home without using those ultimates, and that kind of was their downfall in that King's Row map.
Yeah, the DPS, a lot of these teams are dependent on making sure their DPS are enabled and doing well, and that's not exactly what I'm seeing for Black Dragon. So definitely some adjustments that need to be made for this second half, and I'm sure our lovely desk has those adjustments in mind for them. So Lemon, why don't you guys take it away?
Welcome back, everybody. Broadcast.gg desk. LaFon here, Lemon Kiwi as your host. As halftime, boys, Isurus 2-0. They're looking good, and actually, this is going contrary to I think we were favoring Black Dragons. They look really good this season. I'm going to start with an easy question, guys. Is this surprising you that Isurus are up 2-0 right now?
I'll take it. I did predict Isurus, so this isn't surprising to me. However, the way that it's being taken is actually surprising to me. The picks that we've been seeing, the way that Control Center looked, those are the 2 points that I think are the biggest surprises for me so far, because of the fact that, we were expecting, some of the best teams and everything, and so far it just seems a little bit disconnected.
LaFon, how about you? Are you surprised?
I think I'm going to agree with. I mean, it's kind of boring when the analysts agree with each other, in every single
Don't
way.
fight, don't fight.
But in this case, yeah, absolutely. I don't think Isurus being on top is necessarily the weird thing here. It's definitely in how they got there. Black Dragons have not been, I want to say, particularly clean in how they're getting in those executions. So yeah, it's not that Black Dragons is, so far behind Isurus. It's just Isurus is kind of taking it to them in a way I don't think we kind of expected.
It is unexpected, bit of a disconnect for Black Dragons, but let's go over each map to start. Lijiang Tower, 2-1 for Isurus. Start on Control Center. That was the closest score we've seen, 100-93. Hirix, I'm going to start with you. The counter to Goats, it got brought out. Then there was some Junkrat and some Farah play. Tell me what you like and you didn't like about the compositions that came out.
Well, we've seen different approaches to the way that teams deal with the Goats comp. We've seen Farah, we've seen Junkrat. A lot of times we see them together. Hanzo, being as strong as he is, becomes a staple a lot of times as well. So it then becomes a question of which one do you want to leave out? A lot of times in Control Center, teams often pick things like Junkrat, but in South America, it seems like something's a little bit different. I do tend to go with the Junkrat. I do think that in the way that the map works with the different routes that you like to take, I do think Junkrat provides a lot of solid pressure into a Goats comp. So I would personally pick the Junkrat.
LaFon, do you agree?
I
Fair
mean,
or Junkrat? What's your pick?
I think going explosives regardless is a great choice. It's just really easy to build all charge. I think the one thing, and to Hirix's point, setting up traps, on flank routes, in case they decide to scout a certain way, that's also very valuable. The one thing that Farah brings, and I think is kind of why we kind of saw what Isurus was able to do on Control Center, and I think ultimately why it worked out, is that Farah does a thing that she plays above the composition that you're sort of running, and then you're forced to make a choice. Do I shield above where they're raining down damage through the rockets, usually damage boosted at some point, or do I shield the Hanzo in front? Do I shield the tank line as well? So I think it's a case where while Junkrat provides a lot of pressure down route, what Farah does, she requires you to make a decision. And when you're forced to make a decision, that introduces uncertainty into the environment, and it makes it a lot easier to make mistakes. So I think that's kind of what one of the reasons why teams are starting to run Farah a little bit more, especially in those kind of maps. And on top of that, Barrage, which we all know the joke, press Q to respawn. It's kind of less important when you don't have ranged damage, right? It's a case where, yeah, sure, your Farah is gonna, deal a billion damage with the barrage, but they can't reach her except maybe whip shot, maybe the Moira, maybe the right click from Zarya. So I think there's a lot of reasons why you'd pick Farah, and some of them are just like it's easy to accomplish in a way that Junkrat kind of doesn't do anymore.
And moving on to Gardens, 100 to 77 for Black Dragons. They came up with a response. LaFon, what was dominant about Black Dragons that we didn't see about in Control Center?
I mean, the first thing I'd like to highlight, of course, is that Gardens may have been 177. I don't think it was as close as it perhaps may seem. Isurus just did not have the same level of coordination through that second point. We sort of highlighted a single play that sort of the point ticks over. They use Transcendence, that being Olay. Olay uses Transcendence. After Transcendence is way out far from his team, doesn't get taken out at all, and ends up coming back to the fight. That fight extends for another 20 seconds, and you build yourself a pretty respectable lead. So I think one of the things Isurus just didn't do on Gardens, they didn't have sort of that coordination we kind of have come to expect from them. And, it kind of led to a little snowball in Black Dragon's favor, and they took full advantage.
And another thing on that is that if you allow a player like Olay to have that opportunity to stay alive, we'll see him get more first bloods in the next fight. We'll see him be able to build up more transcendence over the course of that fight as well. And that becomes an issue even going forward, because as we know, Control is all about pacing. It's all about tempo. It's all about making sure that you have those ultimates up when you need them. And if you allow a player like that, especially a Zen, with one of those really, really solid ults that can help you win fights and turn fights very big in momentum shifting as well, that could become a problem for you. And that's exactly what happened, is they let Olay stay alive. They weren't able to confirm kills, and that was an issue for them throughout the first map, I would have to say.
Well, Isurus were able to close out Lijiang Tower with 100 to 63 back on Night Market, where it looked like the Widow Tracer was the winning composition for them. Fair not having as much of an impact, but let's move on to King's Row before we wrap up halftime. Black Dragons attack. They failed to finish the map. They barely get into point C. LaFon, I'll start with you. Where were the biggest challenges for Black Dragons on their attack, and why did they look like they had so much less time going into this?
I mean, it kind of seemed like Black Dragons was out of sync. You're running a dive composition into a sort of anti-dive setup from Isurus. Isurus is able to take fights back. They get a couple of team kills, but it's at the cost of a lot of ultimates. It's almost like they're going into a fight deciding what they're going to use mid-fight. Three ultimates are used and they still toss out a fourth one, or the tank goes in and the backup isn't there. And there's all sorts of these things. They eke out a point A, they eke out a point B, and then they sort of get staggered out on point C, where they literally can't even make entryway because they're just completely cut off. They have no real ability to get behind or above or around, and Isurus just locks them out. Black Dragons, it's such a confusing team, because I think this is not the team we've seen in previous weeks. They're almost deciding to play less like Black Dragons, almost as if they're playing too safe, or to the in a certain respect to their opponent that I'm not sure you necessarily need to do, especially at this time of the season.
I would say that their backline is actually playing safe, and it's their tank line being completely aggressive. And in particular, I would say Sleeper, because you talk about being out of sync, and I think the easiest way to show that is looking at the way that their Winston player plays with their diva. It just seems like things are not going smoothly in that regard at all.
And a one standout player that you guys mentioned on the analyst desk was Klaus. And Farah, he's playing Tracer, he's playing all kinds of stuff. Hurix, he was a bit of a question mark in Isurus' attack, although they finished with flying colors and they take the 2-0 pretty decisively on King's Row. Are you questioning Klaus's picks a little bit on these maps?
I wouldn't say questioning. I think it's interesting that in every single phase, he had a different stylistic choice. I mean, it was very dynamic the way that he approached that. We saw the Pharah to start things off. It opened things up nicely for them because the D.Va wasn't there to block the conk. It really kind of de-nested everybody. Brought in the McCree for Streets phase, which allowed them to have a little bit of extra pressure at the front line because he was playing that aggressively. And then we saw the Genji, and we actually did get to watch that a little bit, and we found that it was because they called the Graviton with the Dragon Strike combo. He wanted to deflect that. They didn't have the D.Va there because they were running the Zarya. So it's interesting to see the dynamic that he brought to this team.
I'm so excited to see the dynamic between these two teams. 2-0 lead for Isurus Gaming heading into the second half of this match. Volskaya will be your map 3, and Boop and Ham will be your casters, so take it away.
Welcome back. I'm so excited for this Volskaya Industries because 2CP or Assault has always gone to extra innings the way that we've casted it, or the games that we have casted so far, and I'm hoping that this one is more of the same. But we were talking while the desk was talking as well, and something that we wanted to point out is kind of what I like to call the BGH factor. And so something that I have talked to some of the other South American casters about is when people play BGH, they get very, very scared. They tend to play, they're the behemoth, right? But the one team that's beaten BGH in the last year has been Isurus Gaming. And when they were Karma, they were making noise in the NA scene as well. So maybe Black Dragon's given Isurus a little too much respect, Ham.
Yeah, Black Dragon's kind of mind gaming themselves a little bit. When we saw them at their strongest, it was like we mentioned, Delavian on the Hanzo, Wetter on the Zarya. We know this guy is a D.Va main, but both of his off tanks are beautiful, and they just won off of that discipline. We get the grab, we Dragon Strike through it. We get the grab, we Dragon Strike through it. We know we can protect our backline until we work up to those ultimates, and that's how we win. But coming up against Isurus, I think you might be right, Boop. A little bit of hesitancy, the counter picking coming off onto heroes that maybe they're not 100% comfortable on, choosing to run, Orisa D.Va defense on King's Row, maybe a little bit questionable. But now, Black Dragons has swapped sides with Isurus. They will be in the blue now on the defense first, while Isurus will have their first crack at Volskaya here, really setting the pace in terms of how many rounds we may see, Boop.
And Delavian is rocking Hanzo. This is what we wanted them to do the entire time. This guy is a monster on this character. You don't get a nickname if you're average, right? You get a nickname if you're incredibly terrible or amazing. And he's definitely on the amazing side of things. Exactly. So let's see if he's going to be able to open this up with a headshot. Frolik and Delavian both playing those snipers, and I love this. Isurus and Ravage going all the way onto the point already. Ravage still not taken down and has hopped out already, and the point is gonna get taken by Isurus if they're not careful. Frolik gonna get the first kill, but with that res, everything's gonna be even back up. Isurus Gaming and Beast just kind of moving back and forth, but with Delavian's pick, they do not have the numbers, and it might be smart for Isurus to reset.
Yeah, Isurus definitely going to be trying the second crack at the point here. They do have Klaus on the Tracer. This is very unusual. Oftentimes we see double sniper played very frequently on Volskaya, but Klaus kind of doing the pain gaming, where Maurice was also on Tracer with the Widowmaker. So Valen, a lot of pressure on his shoulders to keep both Delavian and Perlick in check as Isurus make their way onto the point.
Beast is going to go right on there, and the first Dragon Strike is going to come down, not really do nothing, but Wetter is going to get the first pick for Black Dragons, but Isurus has numbers right now. All Valen needs is another great pick, and he's got it for his team, but once again, Ole showing up on the frag list. Man, he is a support player, guys. I just want you to remember that as Isurus is pulling this back out.
Heal coming in for DDX, but it's not quite enough. The Transcendence is going to be forced out of the Zenyatta, but Sleepers overstays his welcome. He's going to be sleeping with the fishes as he goes flying into the ocean right there. And Black Dragons, they have given up this point, most likely Ole, you just don't have quite enough orbs to stay 1v6 right there. And Valen waking up. This is when Black Dragons need to start quivering in their boots a little bit. They cannot play this defense passively. We need to start seeing the confidence, the aggression from this team. Otherwise, they may well find themselves giving up this point B if they allow Isurus to get on top of them here, especially with Klaus's Pulse Bomb at the ready.
Ooh, Primal Rage has been popped for X Ravage, but that pick from Delavine is going to make things harder for him, but Isurus doesn't seem to care as they're going to get 3 picks on the point. Olay is down, and Pizza Lover has to use the res on Delavine. DDX getting another kill as well, so Isurus Gaming has a huge opportunity on the point for at least a tick, and maybe the whole thing. That Primal Rage pop right at the beginning opened things up for them, and they're still taking advantage of that. Delavine is getting the Dragon Strike through the point and pushing them off, but Isurus definitely scared Black Dragons there for a second.
Oh no, they quaking. They quaking right
They're
now.
quaking so hard.
Yeah, exactly. All of Volskaya is shaken with their quaking as Perlick is actually forced to swap onto his own tracer just to make sure that Klaus is not going to be free ranging in that backline. Valen is going to stick with this Widowmaker, and now this is when we start seeing the divergence between these two sniper choices. Delavine does have a lot more utility in the ability to zone them away with that Dragon Strike, but Valen much closer to that Infra Sight, which could provide crucial this vision to know exactly where where the rest of his team should be laying in their bullets.
Beast getting the first kill and getting the res out of Pizza Lover, so every kill is a confirmed kill at this point in time. Perlick not able to convert on anything with that Transcendence on this point. Isurus Gaming has a huge advantage. Valkyrie has been popped as well. The time to kill has been a little bit low, and in terms of positioning, Isurus is actually off of the point. Their DPS is right now. The stick misses. Could have been a huge stick on it to Zenyatta, and that is not going to be the case. Isurus gets a huge kill on it to Pizza Lover, but no, Deladine getting Beast right in the head during the D-Mech, but it doesn't matter as Isurus Gaming is going to continue getting the kills. They haven't gotten the tick yet, so they're going to get another opportunity. Black Dragons has come back onto this point. Sleepers is going to pop Primal Rage. Nothing to it, is going to be dead instead. 1 tick down, 1 res down. Dragon Strike not going to push them off the point just yet. Almost 2 ticks, but Black Dragons is backhand.
Oh, we have the self-destruct now, trying to buy some crucial time to get the respawns back in for Black Dragons, and it may well work here unless Beats can pick up some kills. No, but that does allow the Resurrection to come back onto DDX. Isurus has not let up the pressure at all. Pizza Lover has that Valkyrie, pops it, but there's nobody left to heal on the point. Isurus Gaming, they want these 2 ticks, and they're going to get it. They may well get this entire point. There's a pesky Mercy in the fly, but Klaus is able to swat her out with those pulse pistols, and Isurus Gaming is just millimeters away from finishing this out. 3 minutes and 20 seconds left in the bank.
That was the hardest working 2 ticks I have seen in a very, very long time. And what a great fight from Isurus. I believe only 1 person died during that extended fight, and then they got res. So technically it never happened.
Yeah, no, what do you mean they died?
Yeah,
I didn't see
it's
that.
a
What are you
secret.
talking about?
Don't tell my
Yeah,
friends.
yeah, sure.
Yeah, but anyway, Black Dragons fell apart there at the end. They had multiple opportunities to come back. It wasn't even a stagger per se, but Klaus on that tracer getting the picks they need to finish this map off with a good time bank.
Isurus just yanked the rug right out from underneath that Black Dragons defense when
It's a
they
great
looked
analogy.
potentially a little bit shaky on their offense on point A. But once they got the ball rolling, Black Dragons, they found themselves, trying to run uphill on a piece of glass. They just never could quite make things up. They never had the ultimate advantage. They were always struggling to put pressure on the Isurus Gaming backline. Valen, DDX, if you allow the 2 of them to stay uncontested, you are just hoping against hope that both of these incredibly skilled players are just going to miss their shots, which is not going to happen. Where we had Delavine on that tracer trying to run interference for Klaus that allows both X-Ravaged and Beast to just feast upon the Black Dragon's own squishies, and Wetter and Sleepers just not quite able to do enough to try and peel for them or pressure out the Isurus backline themselves. We saw Sleepers actually even pop that Primal Rage just to try and get a little bit of disruption on DDX and Kai'Sa, but the 2 supports keeping themselves strong, and then that Fury only going to sustain you for so long. He died, and then Black Dragons was without a main tank, and the cycle starts all over again.
And this is not a position Black Dragons thought they would be in, right? They are 2-0 down, 3 minutes and 20 seconds, both points, and their match life is on the line. Isurus is on match point. They have to finish with a good amount of time. Right now, honestly, in my mind, are they even going for the draw at this point? Because they have to finish just as fast, if not faster, than Isurus to give themselves a shot, especially how Isurus has been playing thus far. Isurus is going to maintain their presence on the high ground. Tanks are going to be facing forward, making that aggressive eye contact, which is what Ham and I like to say for ult charge.
Oh yeah, thick eye contact right here. Delavine forced to use that dash to get back to the safety of his team. You see how much respect Black Dragons give to Valen, that they're investing a Genji just to try and close the difference and pressure out this Widowmaker, but it's not even going to matter. Valen gets the headshot kill onto Perlick, and now Delavine gonna find himself the prey beast. He's hunting, man.
Hey, also thematic because Isurus means Mako shark.
Exactly.
Just so you know. So all the shark puns that we're about to do, we apologize for, especially for Black Dragons, as they have been feeding. It's been a feeding frenzy for Isurus so far against Black Dragons, and like you said, they're giving them that respect. Delavine at 51% on the Dragon Blade, still quite far away, but Isurus also far away, and Valen keeps doing this over and over again, doming, getting those headshots on it to Perlick and the rest of the team, and Beast usually follows right after that. What a great diving diva.
Oh, the incredible amount of synergy between this Isurus team. It's still just so good. Wetter getting put under pressure here. I mean, it doesn't matter how many ultimates you have. This is the problem that Black Dragons is running up against. You have Blade, well, Valen can take that ultimate off of the field with a single shot. And Black Dragons, they just haven't been able to put any kind of pressure on him. And Widowmaker, just in general, is a streaky hero, and you need to be feeling it in order to stand up. And Klaus now with this Pulse Bomb, he's doing the sneakery.
And boy, oh boy, is Valen feeling it. And he is sneakering very, very well, as he is now right behind the supports. He's got to hit this. Oh, they spotted him out. He had to use the rewind. This is going to be bad news for Klaus if they're able to get this dive on him. But no, he's able to blink away. They needed to convert on that. They spotted him out, got him to 31 HP and the rewind. But now he's actually going to probably get the kill. But no, the Widowmaker does get away. Valen does have a wall hacks available, so everyone knows where everyone is, but Transcendence for DDX, self-destruct for a Beast, Pulse Bomb for Klaus, and Valkyrie for Kaiza online. 4 ultimates against 5, but Olay is down. Valen, once again, just like you said, hey, you might have an ultimate, but you can't use it when you're dead, and you're not going to get res either. Delavine taken very, very low, and the time on the clock is getting lower and lower as well.
Exactly. Klaus wasn't able to one-clip Perlick's Widow, but it doesn't matter. It's all about the time bank game right now. Every second scraped off the board is a win for Isurus right now, and they haven't had to use a single one of their ultimates besides that Primal Rage. Black Dragons, they have the tools. They just need the opportunity to get to work on this objective. That's a beautiful start.
And this is getting to work, especially following up with the Dragon Blade. The res did go off, but Delavine does get 2 kills with that Dragon Blade. Zenyatta is alive. DDX no longer. Great right click right to the dome, and there self-destruct needs to be big for Isurus. Gaming does get Perlick, but that's not going to be enough because defensive spawns are very, very far away. And when you see Pizza Lover go down, Isurus might have some hope. They're going to try to stall this point out just a little bit longer, but in the end, it's a losing fight, as Black Dragons is going to take 3 ultimates into the next fight as well.
That is always a good thing for Black Dragons. They don't have a lot of time. They're going to try and make up for it with the swarm of ultimates over here. A beautiful blade from Delavine to secure the deal for his team. And the best news is they didn't have to use that Transcendence to keep him up, taking advantage of the window of opening that was given to them by Isurus. Kaiza going for a really risky res meant that both supports in the end were going down. However, now Isurus also have their own 2 support ultimates, so it's going to be a question of who pulls the trigger first. Much like the Roadhog hook battle, the Zen that trans is last usually gives his team a much better advantage.
We haven't seen this in a very long time. 2 Genjis on both sides. Valen switching off of Widowmaker onto this aggressive DPS. But with the ultimates that Black Dragons has, this can be very, very scary for Isurus. Transcendence and Self-Destruct have been popped. And Olay opening up another kill with a Ravage. This is a 65 on the point. No res available because it is not in a resable spot. But Perlick going to get another kill. That is 4 left on the point for Isurus Gaming. Isurus still coming back. Delaviv with another Dragon Blade. Valen's not going to get his as he is down. 0 HP left though. DDX, these Zenyatta's knowing exactly how to put out some offense, but with this res, Isurus is coming back, especially with those spawns. But Isurus now, they were quaking in their panties there.
Potentially, but we still saw excellent discipline from this team, playing something of a Korean style of defense, allowing the tick and a half to go the way of Black Dragons in order to win out that siege battle with their defensive spawns. Oftentimes we see teams panicking once they see the objective ticking up towards their enemy, so they start trying to put bodies on the point when you're all alone, rather than waiting for that full 6-man regroup. Now we are going to see some team composition swaps from Black Dragons. They're completely resetting their ultimate economy. They have to know that Valen will have this blade, so they'll be likely expecting to lose the next couple of fights. But once again, they are keeping their eye on the bigger picture here. They have to finish out this map in order to keep their series hopes alive, Boop.
And potentially their hopes at the #1 seed in Group B. The map differential will help as well, so they need to take these maps, and they want the win. Black Dragon's going to come in here with a goat top, no ultimates. Olay getting very, very quick to coalescence, but getting that D-Deck DGX is going to cause one less take for Black Dragons, and Klaus is going to take advantage of that, as Farah is a great counter to this ghost composition. Valen not having to use that blade, but with 1 minute and 40 seconds left on the clock, Black Dragons needs to decide if they want to continue putting resources into this fight or reset him.
Ooh, Klaus pulls the trigger on the Rocket Barrage, not going to be picking up any kills, but allows that D.Va self-destruct kill onto Pizza Lover. The Lucio speed boost is a crucial portion of this GOAT composition. Without it, the tanks are too slow to be effective on the objective. So Isurus has won out this battle so far, but it was once again a very close thing. It was actually so close that Wetter and Sleepers will both have their ultimates up in this next fight, and that was actually a big mistake for Isurus. They definitely allowed Black Dragons to overstay their welcome on the objective, and now they're going to absolutely have to burn support ultimates in order to hold this next fight.
But Isurus has their ultimates as well. Wetter with a 1-minute graviton. That could be proved to be game winning for Black Dragons. That's exactly why Delaviv switched to the Widow, is to get that opening pick and the res out of Heiza there. And so this is still a 6v6. Graviton Surge has been dropped. Transcendence going to be dropped, saving the team as well. The Isurus has numbers on the point. Valen with that Swift Strike, and Dragon Blade's going to get the kills. 30 HP is going to be enough, as Pizza Lover is going to go down, and Isurus is going to come out on top for this fight. 24 seconds left means they might have a hope, but where they're going to assert themselves up close to the point so they can get the pick, so they don't even get a chance to come back to this point. 14 seconds, Sam.
Pizza Lover, put on your roller skates. You better be a speed lover right now. Somebody from Black Dragons needs to touch this point in order to keep things alive, but they might well just run their faces into Klaus's barrage right here. Black Dragons, it is do or die.
Oh, and they do get overtime thanks to Sound Barrier, but the way that they came in, it's going to be staggered, and Ravage is going to continue his kill streak here on Volskaya Industries, and he's going to get another. Kaiser's going to get one just to get a little bit of caramel in on that ice cream sundae. That was Isurus' defense here, and Isurus Gaming going to win this 3-0. We're still going to go to map 4, but very unexpected knowing the history of these two teams.
Indeed, we thought that this was going to be an extremely back and forth brawl from both of these teams, but Isurus showing themselves to be the top dog this time around. Delaviv, though, is going to get
deflected the Widow shot into the DDX
that
kill.
Feel, man, when it's like
friendly fire.
Your Zenyatta is definitely giving you hard side eye right now. Oh wow, thanks, Valen. What? Yeah,
that was a hard POTG for them to watch. The only bad thing, right, that potentially happened to them on Volskaya, that was another very controlled win from Isurus.
Exactly, very disciplined. We can kind of see maybe some of the veteran experience coming through for this team. They have fought in South America for ages, the only team to have ever bested Brazil Gaming House. They've weathered the storm, man. They're like, hey, young whippersnappers, you think you've seen Widowmakers? Valen, I'll show you a Widowmaker.
And what I was so impressed with, Han, was their offensive attack on point B, where they got kill after kill. It was just red after red after red, not a hint of blue in that kill feed, and that's hard to do on Assault.
and with the composition that they were running. We often talk about the sustain from the different types of comps that we see, and goats, which is what Black Dragons brought, that's what pops into your mind first if you were playing that word association game. Sustain. Oh, we're going to run, massive amounts of tank, a lot of HP, a lot of shielding, a lot of barriers. But Isurus were able to do the same thing, just dancing around the objective. You have on one hand,
Circling, if you will.
exactly, circling like hungry
Mako
aquatic animals.
sharks.
What
Yeah,
is that?
exactly.
So, and allowing, the long sight lines for both DDX and Valen. It's kind of that whole deal of, you're so absorbed with the fight on the objective, you can't possibly invest resources to dive the backline. We saw Sleepers try to do it. Primal raged, no less, and was still cut down because the ability of this Isurus team to turn on a dime, redirect their focus to any single member that's been pressuring their team out has been their route to success so far.
I don't remember the last time I saw a Primal Raging Winston melted that fast. Discord definitely helped with that, but in the end, Volskaya was an easy win for Isurus, as they actually almost held Black Dragons on A. It was very, very close, and Black Dragons had the ultimates to go to B, but they couldn't finish it out.
Exactly.
And now we're going to the land of right angles, which is a Rialto. And the reason why I mentioned that, so these right angles are really interesting and very it's very Rialto in their way, since it takes so long for the payload to move around these corners. What you get is, in terms of distance, very short distance, but the corners are very long, and you can definitely get trapped at a multitude of these in Rialto.
Yeah, this is the land of Biscotti. right corners, Hanzos, Faras galore, because like you said, Boop, moving the cost for moving the payload is much higher than on many other escort maps. The teams need to evaluate how much do we want to actually invest in this single team fight. Can we get the enemy team to throw in more grabs and wipe us so we can come back? Because you don't really see a lot of these scrappy fights. It's usually clean team fights because of how long you need to stay on the payload in order to turn those corners. It has to be clean.
And the other thing that we see very frequently is, I think 3 out of our 4 casts on Rialto so far, I think 4 out of our 4 casts on Rialto so far have all ended on A. One has ended on B. So we don't really see teams finish it, but in the usual universe of things, you either get held on A or you finish the map. So I'm really excited to see if we're going to see that finish the map on a Rialto, because I love point C. You get through the angle and then it's just straight away to the final stage there. But Rialto has been a challenge for a lot of these teams, as I think I've been able to tell that this has been the newest map.
Yeah, teams are still kind of figuring out the best way to go about it. Do you run, for example, something that we see, dual sniper? You just set up that crossfire, one behind the Orisa shield, maybe a Hanzo taking a flank with a Mercy in order to get those picks, or do you just go above the roof with a Pharah of some kind, rain down rockets on a lot of those very narrow alleyways? You can get a lot of value off of the splash damage as well. So right now, it looks like Black Dragons will be on the defense first on the blue side. They are running kind of that classic single healer double sniper. Delavine will be making a repeat performance on this Hanzo, and he will need to show up here. Pearly K on the Widowmaker as well. Both of them more than capable. For me, Boop, the ones to watch out for are going to be Wetter and Sleepers. In the head-to-head, they have been falling to Ravaged and Beast, who are going to be on those dive tanks. Isurus Gaming themselves running that dual sniper, but it's going to be all about mobility for them.
So I'm wondering, though, if they're going to be able to stay on at this high ground, as we've seen a lot of teams cede that space and then move to the courtyard, which is easier to hold specifically for Orisa and Sleepers. That's exactly what we're going to see. So they didn't get the opening picks that they want. They're going to cede the space to the courtyard.
Yeah, interestingly, neither side choosing to run that Pharah, but as we predicted, both Valen and Klaus trying to set up that crossfire, but it's going to be Delavine picking first blood.
Yeah, they were able to completely set up Black Dragons, as Isurus is now back onto the red side on the attack, and Delavine's going to get another great headshot. This is Delavine that needed to show up for the entirety of the series, but Valen's shown up as well. As this Diva battle has been huge for Beast at 29 HP left, going to be able to get that health back, and leaving him demached is actually a better case scenario.
Oh, absolutely. Did you see that peel right there? Beast saving his Hanzo's life, and that's going going to push Black Dragons all the way back behind this bridge. However, now as the Orisa shield gets back on, a great hook from Olay will bring in Valen, and Isra is going to be forced to regroup slightly. However, Black Dragons don't have a lot of long distance push here. Isra, you can tell, they're still dancing around this payload. They don't want to fully reset.
Oh, the Hulk hook into the whole hog to the push D.Va out of the fight, but no D-Mech for you. It's Winter's going to decide not to dive in on that kill, even though he was low. Ravage taken low, but a really great healing is going to keep him high. Ooh, I love the self-destruct. Is he going to get anybody? No, but I love how fancy that looked. Delavine's going to get the confirmed kill with that Dragon Strike. No Dragon Strike kill for Isurus Gaming. As we see over and over again, this is where people get held, but not Isurus Gaming. Is another great headshot from Klaus. Is going to continue moving this payload forward. They just got to clean the rest up.
Oh, Sleepers. He's going to be taking a dirt nap right there, courtesy of Beast. I mean, Black Dragons, we were talking about needing to win these clean team fights, and that was not happening for them. They kept giving space, meters after meters after meters, until finally there was nothing left. They were attempting to make space for both Delavine and Pearly K, but just bare bones, Isurus were outplaying them DPS 1-to-1, and we saw Sleepers kind of juking around his shield. That's where you often find yourself as that Orisa because of the kind of team composition that Isurus is running. That dive offense, he can just swarm around that shield and attack you from all sides, and it's really a no-win situation. However, Sleepers still does have that battle bongo, that supercharger online. They want to use it before they swap off.
Huge opening pick from Perlix65 onto this payload. This could be a big defense for Black Dragons, but with that hook, no conversion on it. The hook Dragon Strike, though, going to eat through a ton of people. Widowmaker doesn't survive. Self-destruct, not going to get anybody. Beast's going to get the first kill. Wetter almost taken down as well. The ultimates are all invested in this fight. Isurus wants to win this point and win it right now.
Oh my goodness. Beast and Ravage going insane in the back. Even when Olay was able to get those hooks, and you would think put them out of position, the peel there from Beast to keep Ravage up was there, and the whole time the payload was still moving as Black Dragons, they have yet to win a single clean team fight. They're going to have ultimates online, but they need to be able to use them effectively. So far, Isurus have been playing a really good and patient game, just waiting out right now. The sights from Perlick, Klaus doesn't want to get sniped out, and they're perfectly happy with getting slow meterage on this point.
They don't have to win the fight at the beginning. They're winning the fight when they know they can after the right ultimates come through. Perlick once again going to force the res potentially out of Kaiza, and that's exactly what we're going to see. So all kills are confirmed for Black Dragons at this point. But I love this. The aggression going into the back line. Both tanks moving to the back line. Transcendence going to keep them all up, but no kills just yet. Valen, this could be an enormous Dragon Strike. Definitely going to go through the bongo. Sleepers bongo already down, but Perlick and Delavine, the DPS players, finally showing some defense for Black Dragons. Delavine, that's Delading for you. You get the defense, and finally Black Dragons wins the fight.
Both Delading and Della swoosh, maybe? Swoosh, is that the noise the dragons make as he unleashes them? Blah, 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 blah. Eating noises.
Yep.
Black Dragons had to win that fight. They are going to actually stay with this composition, but you saw the difficulties they had in policing their backline. Ravage dove way too deep, but they weren't able to contest him or punish him because of their lack of mobility. However, now Isurus going to do Black Dragons a favor, swap onto their own heavy tank line with Ravage now on the Rhine.
Great vision from Perlick, the Widow v Widow battle with the triggered Venom Mine. They know exactly where each other are, but no conversions on the kills just yet. Perlick, though, distracted by the Widowmaker, almost gets taken down themselves. I love this D.Va play, but Beast is going to have to use the self-destruct, but as he's D-Mech, gets headshot. The Isurus Gaming is going to say, hey, Beast, we're going to be Beast ourselves, but the res actually does come through, and Isurus wins another fight, but the way that Black Dragons won that defense, that was the best possible spot for them.
Absolutely. They're going to have one more chance, and they need to win this. We see more swaps coming in from the defense. Perlick now on the Brigida. You have to be able to sustain here. Get value from Olay's Whole Hog, which can blow all of Isurus off, but he might not have a chance to even use it if X-Ravage can land a great shatter.
Ooh, oh, he does! X-Ravage lands on 4, and the Dragon Strike's gonna come through, actually knocks the bodies out of the way, so gonna have to kill him a different kind of a way. Valen gonna get the kill onto Brigitte, so nothing available for Black Dragons. Team kill to finish it off. Round 1 complete, 3-0 Isurus.
What a way to top off your finish of Rialto with a clean team kill. We saw that really it was Isurus dictating the pacing of the game the entire time. Anytime we saw swaps or stubbornness in refusal to swap, they were getting the upper hand. Black Dragons really playing Isurus's game right now, both in terms of heroes and tempo. Isurus, man, they were barely stopped at all on what is usually an extremely tough streets phase. Olay, unfortunately, just wasn't quite getting as much value as you would like to see from a Roadhog, missing quite a few hooks, and even when the hooks did come through, the mobility from the Isurus tanks were just too much for Black Dragons to try and capitalize on. They were never really able to chase down any of the kills. They found themselves, turning around in circles, kind of making themselves dizzy in an attempt to focus down any single member of that Isurus team. However, Black Dragons, they still have their shot. If they can finish out Rialto, we will go to extra innings. I believe the first extra innings we've seen on this map in all of South America Contenders.
Nope, breakdown encore when extra innings.
Boo, I was wrong. Okay, Boop is right.
The only reason why I bring that up is because that game's amazing to watch.
Yes, you should definitely go watch it. But Black Dragons, well then, they are going to try and retread history with their own finish of Rialto here. They're going to be running that solo Mercy once again, potentially, as Isurus themselves going to be sticking with that Orisa. So Kai'Sa and DDX, that has been, if there have been any weak spots for Isurus, the support line dying early has been it. Perlick and Delavine, Olay as well, a lot of one-shot potential from all three of these players, and they're going to have to bring it.
Well, and they're going to have to bring it much harder than they did in the last round because, like you said, Olay, even when the hooks got confirmed, the kills weren't. And what they're going to do here is exactly what we saw Black Dragons do. They're going to try to get a couple picks here at the beginning, because if you can really maintain this high ground, you can stay here for a while. But with that halt, they're going to go ahead and move to the courtyard. They're not going to see each other for a little while.
Nope, Klaus gonna stay on this high ground. Nope, he falls off. Nobody saw that. Oh, Pizza Lover takes the deeper dive though. Not sure quite what happened there, but Isurus looks like
it's a hot day in Rialto. Yeah. There's water everywhere. Sometimes you just gotta you can't think about it. You just gotta dive into the water, right?
Wetter's exactly. Like, come on, man. Life here is better down where it's wetter.
Exactly. Well done. Well done. And like we said, they're just kind of going to see each other until it gets moved to a certain point here in the courtyard, and you're seeing the right angles that we're talking about. Tons of turns. Pearly K, though, Pearl Lake getting a ton of headshots, but the rest of Black Dragons hasn't really been able to really confirm these, but Delavine is going to prove me wrong and get Kai'Sa, so no res or healing from the Mercy available for Isurus. But the way that Rialto works, this actually doesn't quite matter right now where the payload is, since Isurus will come back with 6, especially since no side has Mercies just yet, as these snipers have been showing up for both teams on this first point so far. But again, the way that these kills work in that order, Isurus Gaming does have an advantage here when it comes to a slight spawn advantage here for the defense.
Yeah, but they're running out of bodies. The advantage not going to matter too much. However, Kai'Sa and DDX are still in this fight. They're wisely going to be giving up this point A most likely. No! Ravage is back. The Orisa is in, and Valen still has that Dragon Strike on the ready to try and buy a little bit more space here before point A.
Oh, you got to get on the payload, though. If you're going to contest, you contest hard. And that's Ravage, though, going to almost C9 that, but we do have 2.3 meters left on the payload. 2 minutes and 9 seconds left. Oh, great Dragon Strike coming from Isurus. The hook not doing much because he was standing still during the hook animation. He dies for it. Black Dragons looked like they were going to be able to capture this point, but in the end, Isurus holds.
Oh, that was so incredibly close. What a beautiful capitalization of just a split-second window of opportunity. And I love this from Isurus. Black Dragons, we know they're also capable of it, but they have been playing far too safe. The Roadhog has not been working out. Olay is going to get that swap onto the Zenyatta to get the Discord orb on, make it a much more even fight between these two teams, but he's already working at such a disadvantage. DDX will already have that Transcendence on hand. However, it looks like Black Dragons may be looking to go for that full rotation all the way around the bridge.
But they know exactly where they're coming, and Sonic Arrow has been placed in that exact building. Dragon Strike gonna come down. This has to be big for them. 1 minute and 13 seconds left is not a long time on Rialto, and if you're gonna get held, you're gonna get held right here at Isurus Gaming. It said, "This is my house," on Rialto. Point A, it's all mine as Beast goes beast mode and gets the takes in the D-Mech. Isurus looking strong here. 1 minute left for Black Dragon.
Oh no, and then potentially a stagger onto Olay. No. Oh my goodness, the self-destruct from BC that gets a second free mech. Isurus now, they are just 48 seconds away from potentially sweeping Black Dragons, who have 4-0'd them in the past. That would be an incredible comeback story, and everybody, not just Beast, gonna be hungry for blood right now. Delavian swapped off onto the Genji. He's only going to have a few seconds. This cannot be an AKM blade. He needs to stay alive long enough. That is going to be Black Dragon's method forward, but no, he dies!
No! That is a huge pick, especially since Isurus has the ultimate advantage. No DPS ultimates available for a Black Dragons. Delavine is dead. Everyone else is far away, and no Transcendence for them either. So they're going to have to stay on this payload just by winning the fight. But Isurus, with that Dragon Strike, could just win it outright. Delavine is going to be back. There is enough time for them. This is it for Black Dragons. This is do or die. Olay is going to take it into his own hands. Self-destruct, not going to get anybody. This is an even fight so far for Black Dragons and Isurus Gaming. But that red is showing you Isurus once again coming in hot here at the very end as Beast Mode gets back onto the Widowmaker. No DPS to worry about for Isurus Gaming. The kills are going to be confirmed for them as Isurus is also going to take Rialto, not dropping a mat to Black Dragons in dominating fashion. Isurus Gaming wins this series 4-0.
Isurus taking a huge bite out of Black Dragons right there and really cementing their position here in South America at the top of Group B. This is a team that we haven't seen play that often right there, but oh man, Valen coming in clutch. See, it's everybody says Hanzo OP, but it's not just about the Dragon Strike, man. He lands those vanilla arrows too.
Well, remember, Valen used to play for Black Dragons, so I wonder if there's anything a part of that. But I definitely want to throw it back to the desk real quick because they have a lot to talk about. Is Isurus the BGH counter that we've been looking for? Are Black Dragons still going to maintain their presence at the top? Lemon, I have so many questions. Give me answers, please.
I don't have a ton of answers, but I have some great analysts by my side. Hurix and Lafon back to bring you some big brain analysis. I mean, do we really have much to say about this match from 2-0 to 4-0 heading into the second half? I guess we'll start with Volskaya, and I'm going to lead this into a general discussion of Black Dragons throughout not only Volskaya, but throughout the whole match. They just look uncomfortable. They look like they're playing off role, and they are playing off role from what we've seen in previous matches.
I mean, you look at Olay, right, and you see a guy that's definitely a standout. I mean, throughout all of the maps that we saw today, Olay did look fairly consistent. There were a couple of moments where I think he really shined, and there were a couple of moments where I think he was just kind of at par, but either way, I think he was doing his job effectively. The issue, I think, was like everybody else didn't seem to be at that level. Everybody else seemed disconnected. We talked already about the tank play. We talked about, the DPS, how they haven't really been hitting their stride as much as we kind of expected. It wasn't until very late in the series where finally on Rialto, we saw Perlic kind of coming into it with Widowmaker being able to finally take on Klaus. But aside from that, it was mostly just Olay on the side of Black Dragons that was really proving to be effective at all.
And I think just to continue building on that, it's kind of I think it's like, as it started, so it finished. We kind of highlighted a couple of the players that we thought would be kind of effective or at the forefront, and mostly those were the DPS players. And as we sort of like, maybe we caster cursed them at the very beginning because they were nowhere to be found. There were moments where the kill feed would light up with kills, but on the whole, it was pretty much an average showing from the DPS players. I think, as Hurix mentioned, Olay did a pretty good job today, actually. There was a lot of times where was most frequently the one that was getting the kills for the team, had Transcendence up pretty frequently, and as the flex Zen player, or as a flex support player, that Zen is such an important role. So I think, yeah, highlighting that particular hero. The rest of the team, though, definitely a couple of question marks heading out of this week.
I also want to highlight that we talked about Avenge that was supposed to play for Isurus, but it was Ravage that stayed throughout this game. So possibly we're going to see Avenge come in the later matches, but I think just Ravage played so well, especially on Volskaya, his Primal Rages. He was getting multi-kills as a Winston.
I mean, he was definitely stepping things up in a big way. I think, honestly, that his space creation, you talk about Volskaya, I mean, that was absolutely the map where I think he stepped up to being at that level where we would expect to see a tank, in Contenders to be able to contend with a team like BGH or, some of the teams that are over in Group A that have really kind of stood out. You need to have tank play like that. So we'll have to see if Avenge is going to be able to kind of stick out in the same fashion, if he's going to be able to have that same performance level going forward.
Let's move on to Rialto. It's double sniper versus double sniper action that we've seen. And we've talked about maybe even Perlik having the upper hand in the Widow duel versus Klaus. And did you guys think that Klaus should have switched to something else, or was his contest against Perlik enough?
I mean, to highlight Rialto, it's a new map first of all, so we definitely see strategies here that we may not see elsewhere. There are more times when rotations happen differently than you're kind of used to. But I think in this case, Cloud staying on the Widowmaker was not necessarily the wrong choice here. He did a good enough job in terms of contesting certain sightlines, was able to get just enough damage to continue to be on par in terms of infrasight. So it's not like he was really struggling in just the damage department. The final blows weren't there necessarily, but he didn't need to. Again, providing pressure downrange as that Widowmaker is still so valuable. You kind of cut off sight lines, you make tanks not able to really walk in, and you have to play definitely safer when there's a Widow in mix. So I don't necessarily think it's the wrong choice. Was it his most effective hero of the day? I also think that's not necessarily the case, but again, he doesn't need to be to get Isurus the win at the end of the day.
I definitely want to piggyback on that. I want to agree with everything you said. So we're a little bit boring today, but I mean, it's the truth. I mean, you talk about the space control. That's exactly what the Widow provides. Going off of what he said, again, make sure the tanks are playing a little bit slower so you get a little bit more control. Their pushes were still quite effective. Yes, he was losing out in the duel versus Perlik time and time again. I think it was like 4 times in a row that Perlik wound up getting the better end of the deal on that one, but still his team was pushing, and that's overall the goal that they have to keep in mind, and that was actually working out for them. And the other thing that they have to keep in mind is that if he does go over to Tracer, it's all about resource management. Is he going to be able to get into position quick enough? If he does get into position, then all of a sudden, things turn quickly for him. He doesn't have the resources to get back and over to his team because of the way that the map is laid out as well. So it becomes a big issue for them. And I think Widow is just a safer choice for them. And as long as he's picking a couple of pot shots every now and then, which is essentially what we saw, and denying space, which is exactly what he was doing, then he gets the job done, and that's what allowed them to take that map as well.
Well, with the 4-0 win, Isurus, I mean, they're climbing up in the standings now. And I think it was Hurix that mentioned they were undefeated minus that little forfeit that happened in week 1. So Isurus are maybe looking just as dominant as they did last season. So congrats to Isurus. But the Overwatch action isn't over yet, ladies and gentlemen. We have Predators versus Pain Gaming coming up next for our second out of 3 matches happening today. We're going to go throw it to a quick break so we can get that lobby set up for you, get a new desk rolled out. We're going to be right back. Stay tuned.
You want